around the airways for a while, and the disappointment where we see them again on the back of a situation that for the best part of 3 quarters, I sat there and watched it and said, this is a pretty good side. This is a pretty accomplished side, and I haven't got them in the 8, but they're playing against one of the premiership fancies and they had them off the bit.
Well, I get the feeling watching Carlton, they're really close. I think they can contend quickly, but they're still miles away at the same time. There are things that just need to be addressed. They've been on this incredibly long rebuild, and Carlton fans are getting frustrated. They're making some errors, I think, in the recruiting table.
Are they getting frustrated, though, with the likes of you, and I say this with the greatest respect, who knows and understands footy, and you keep saying they're close, so they go, hang on, being told they're close for the last 4 years.
Well, I think they are close. They've got 3 or 4 holes to fill through the middle of the ground. I think the recruitment of Zach Williams was an error, but it's really based on defence. As you said, if you can hang with the Bulldogs for 3 quarters, you're not that far away if you address your defence. And the defence, Rui, it stands out, doesn't it? They concede so many consecutive goals week in, week out, that they haven't got a plan to go back and get stability behind the ball.
It's lumpy scoring against that's been the issue for Carlton this year. You look at their percentage, I mean, they're in every game this year, Carlton, probably bar the Port Adelaide game where it was actually a bit of ball use that was horrendous. It cost them that day. But they come in big lumps and they don't have an ability to stop the momentum when it shifts. I mean, you're right. They looked like yesterday was the day that they were going to announce themselves. OK, this is when we're going to take a scalp. This is when we're going to have a complete performance. Just when you thought that, again, it reared its head.
That's the problem. Again, I'm repeating myself. So who are we shooting the blame home to? Because it's a problem that hasn't been fixed.
Well, if you have a look at some of this vision on defence, Gary, there is clearly an issue with the defensive coach, which then sheets back to the senior coach. Doherty is at the top of the screen, and it's a centre bounce. They lose it, goes forward, and he picks a side, and that's OK. You can go the wrong side. Then you need to equalise the numbers, and they do that. But Doherty is pointing. He needs to start understanding, and he would know this, but he doesn't act. He has got the charge back there because inevitably you're going to be one man short, and that's how it plays out. This is pretty basic stuff, I would have thought, that you need to find stability behind the ball. You can't be left with an extra forward that you're not able to grab hold of.
The trouble with that one is it's come from a centre bounce. So you've got to know that you were 6 on 6 in front of the ball. So as soon as you go to follow a mid, well, then you've got to then get back and make sure you equalise the numbers.
Here's another point in case. You've got Lipinski deepest. Now, that needs to be addressed by Liam Jones, and yet he's observing. They've got this loose man in the forward line. It's unheard of.
Dude, this is unforgivable.
This is unforgivable. Exactly, Gary. And, I look at this, and this is why I don't think Carlton are that far away. These are fixable issues, and it's not about ability, it's about concentration.
How many times have we sat here with Liam Jones, back when Roosie was here and you were just a wee whippersnapper, and we talked about Liam Jones. I mean, so I think Liam Jones, one-on-one, does a wonderful job.
Yeah.
But how long do you keep going to the well with someone that is in a situation where it's game-defining? And I don't know if we can see that again. That is a staggering piece of vision for a man who's supposed to be the cornerstone of your defence. He doesn't turn his head. All he had to do was turn his head.
Yeah. Well, he was in an unusual position because he was
in the
loose.
Square. You're right, Gaz. So head on a swivel. That's the golden rule for defenders. Head on a swivel, know what's around you. He doesn't look once.
So what's he doing there?
Well, he's doing nothing, Gary.
Right.
A lot of heat on David Teague at the moment, and the defensive system is not allowing the Carlton players to be the best version of themselves. Well, I don't care what system you're putting in place. If you've got players that can't execute a simple turning of the head, which is the number one rule for defenders in that situation, to know what's around you, well then, I mean, how can you lay the blame at David Teague's feet? It's the players, both of those, Doherty and Jones, in those cases, the players are to blame.
Have a look at we want the best comparison, Jerry.
Well, I think
you look at your team, Melbourne.
Well, this is stability behind the ball, and Melbourne's taken some time to get in control of this. But this is how it looks, and David King showed this on First Crack last night. Buddy Franklin gets the ball, but look at Harrison Petty. He is miles behind. That has given them stability, so they can't go and use that space behind. Now, whether or not you're using man-on-man or a zone defence or an extra, you have to have the deepest defender. Lockie Henderson on the weekend played his best game because Zach Tui was behind him. And look what he's looking for there. He short passes it to Papley, but this demon grid is impenetrable at the present time.
And it is.
And that's how it can be fixed with that sort of defence.
Yeah, no, that is right. It can be fixed. I don't want to make Liam Jones the scapegoat. It can be fixed by doing what an under-12 kid is taught to do. Then the ball's in dispute and it's a game on the line and he's the full back. You don't wander aimlessly out the centre-half back with no awareness of what's behind you.
Because guess what? At centre bounce, you can't get a +1. So you have to learn to defend life and death.
But that is indefensible.
And this is where it breaks down, Brett.
Yeah, I know, but that's so centre clearances. Obviously, they were a big problem on the weekend, but just clearances in general were a massive problem.
But they were a bad problem for Melbourne too. And look how many points they conceded. They conceded 1 point despite being down 13 in centre bounces.
I know they were. I'm just trying to say that your back line, your defensive structure has to be your insurance policy. So yes, you defend it. Your midfielders get beaten, and your midfielders in the post-game meeting, David Teague said, "Oh yeah, the midfielders put the hand up, said it was our fault." Well, I hope the defenders are watching that. I'll certainly be getting shown that vision because, hey boys, you're letting your midfielders down. You might blame the midfielders, but the midfielders got every right to look at you and say, "Hey boys, give us a bit of help from time to time."
So Carlton supporters are sitting at home watching, going, "Why? How's it happen? How's it happen?" Well, because you've got dumb instances like that. That's why it happens.
Well, here's Carlton's next 4, Gary. They got the Demons, which is clearly a big one. Hawthorn, they should win. Sydney, toss of the coin. Swans are in good form, and so too are the West Coast.
And before we move on, we're talking about their defensive ability. Jacob Wiedering played one of the great defensive games. So, Stephen May and Lever, they have Wiedering who's in career best form. They've got Jones who one-on-one is a really good defender.
Brilliant.
So they've got a capability to set up like a Melbourne zone. They just didn't.
So they've got a couple of their biggest guns out of contract at the present time. And I think the issue for them, and Patrick Cripps has asked for more time, I've got no doubt he's going to sign, but when you have a reference point for managers of an accepted 900, even if it was 850 for Zach Williams, who's not getting a kick at the present time, then you've got a bit of a problem.
Yeah, you do, because everyone knows it's publicised, whether it's bang on the exact amount, players hear the rumours, and so Harry Mackay walks in and says, well, I've done X, Y, Z, here's my list of accomplishments. Patrick Cripps says, here's mine, this is what I've done, I've been here from the start.
There's a bigger problem than all that. His name's Harry Mackay. And every single game, he's just going up and up and up.
What did you say on radio this morning, Gary?
Oh, they love him, opposition clubs are looking at him going,
they're into him.
Of course they will. Brownie. He's the best big key forward prospect we've seen for him.
But what could a team get to? What number? Because, it'd take a fair bit. We don't see big-name players like that move, especially moving from big Melbourne clubs.
Well, the other bloke is
they might just want them to pay the price.
That's it, Brownie.
Yeah.
They might want them, and then someone else spits out the
Williams
other
is
side.
850, he's saying, well, I want a brick.
A brick, whatever that is, give 2 bricks for Marcus
That's
Bontempelli because
a brick is $1 million in young people's parliament.
I understand that, but he wants 2.
Jared's got a couple of bricks in his back. I just wanted to mention Bontempelli. I mean, this is the emergence of a leader who, at times, his leadership was questioned early in the piece. When they were 27 points down late in that third quarter, I don't know, I was watching on telly, just looked to me like he said, righto, it's not anyone else, it's up to me. And he just took over, and I loved every minute of it. I loved the way he hunted the footy. I loved the way he delivered it and took responsibility for what he did with it once he got the ball, and his work rate. That was Sam Walsh's opponent in that particular play there, and we know how hard Walsh works. And I think we've just seen the emergence of I know we know he's the best player, or one of. But we've seen the emergence of arguably the best captain in the competition, and I think it's a massive tick for him.
Stands up in big moments.
Big numbers, aren't they?
Yeah. It was fantastic. He stands up in... I feel like he's really developing a sense of the moment or the time in a game where he has to stand up. Obviously, a great example when they're 27 points down late in the third quarter, but he's done that consistently for the last 12 months, I think.
Well, we're going to take a break and